Welcome to this episode of the Founders Speak podcast in collaboration with Couchonomics with Arjun. Joining me today on the yellow table is someone I call Mr. Blockchain. I met Prasanna, I think, not too long ago. I think we've known each other through the LinkedIn sort of
Yes.
world, but we met very recently. Um, Prasanna is CEO of Blockstack, which is a Web3 infrastructure player. He's also the founder of what is called the India Blockchain
Forum.
Center
Yeah.
Forum. Sorry,
Yeah.
India Blockchain Forum. Um, I personally think if you sort of cut Prasanna up, blockchain will come out in some form or shape. But Prasanna, welcome to the table the
Yeah.
yellow table as we call it.
Yeah, I think it's great to be here, Arjun. I think we keep hearing you, or you are a global ambassador. So
Thank
it's
you.
my honor to be here along with you at such a global stage at Singapore FinTech Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, look
It's an
forward.
incredible show, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think there's any show in the world which does such an incredible job of bringing fintechs, banks, policy, regulators. You see the
Investors,
whole
startups,
investors.
yeah.
Everything is here. So, Prasanna, the conversation, as I was mentioning when we were talking about you coming on to the to the talk, was the overarching theme for this year at SFF is what they're calling re-architecting the global financial system, right?
Yeah.
And that involves a lot, right? I
Yes.
think financial services is going through arguably more change than it ever has in the history of financial services,
Yes.
in my humble opinion. You could correct me. But I guess the question which I really want to start with is, what does the word re-architecting, or what does the sentence re-architecting of the global financial system mean to you?
I think good to be here once again. When we talk about re-architecting, we need to see why we are doing it. And ultimately, when we go back in 80s or 90s, 2000s, ultimately what we have seen, communication technology changed. From 1G to we are entered in 5G. And while it has changed, the customer behavior has changed. And the customer behavior is demanding your services should be around with me. And when a bank wants to do that, they have to really go back and in their drawing rooms and look at their architecture. Is it really sufficing from those traditional channels, which was brick and mortar, to move it on a digital mobile, and what is coming in, which is a 360-degree or maybe in the immersive world. So I think when we are giving very good experience outside on user interface, we need to go back and see whether your architectures are good. If you talk about transformation of any bank, we can look at it three areas. The back office, mid and front, where front maybe all the channels, maybe tomorrow we talk about metaverse, but it has to glued with the back, which is core banking and many other banking ecosystems. I think in a bank there are 180 systems, and you want to really provide those services to the consumers. We need to have a in mid, which is called APIs or open banking or something which will bring on many more path breaking ecosystem, which we talk about
Mhm.
digital lending or buy now pay later, embedded finance. So re-architecting, it's, and that too on global scale, it means that your customer is today, for example, in India or in UAE, he should have that banking experience seamlessly. What does it mean? It's not only you have to take care of a bank within a bank, but you need to see how your banking will globally. Like
Yeah.
how can he do cross-border payments? How can he do the banking for your bank sitting in UAE? And so many things. So, in a nutshell, apart from technological changes, you need to see how mindset, culture has to be changed at an organization level from top to bottom, so that we really be part of a very good regulated framework. Yeah.
Okay, so Prasanna, I'm going to challenge you on that, right? And I'm just going to state a few things. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So there's two or three phenomena that I actually see happening. So the first one is, while the customer is getting more international, and I think you
Yeah.
basically said, actually the banking world is getting more national,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right, and that could be largely because regulation is driven by national agenda.
Yeah.
It's driven by monetary and fiscal policy, so on and so forth, right? So that's one conundrum, or there is one sort of, I guess, dichotomy that exists, right? Secondly, banks don't, and while we do talk a lot about disrupting retail banking, right? The bigger side of the banking, if I may say, is
Yeah.
institutional banking,
Institutional.
wholesale banking, right?
Yes.
And they don't think in this way, right?
Yes.
Like for them, the whole mantra is not about putting people on apps and having 24/7 services, having creative products with working with a bunch of fintechs. Half of them are regulated,
Yeah.
other half are not, right? And if that part of the banking doesn't really change, maybe we made some good changes on the frills, and yes, we'll publish a lot of reports. You and me will go and speak at a lot of conferences, but
Yes.
the big part of banking wouldn't change. And then I'll tell you the third one, which is this whole view that banks across the world and in fairly large economies are doing fairly well, right? For example, I come from the Middle East. Banks announce bumper profits
Yes,
quarter after
absolutely. I do
quarter,
agree with you.
right?
Yes.
What is the incentive to change, right? Like, there's an old saying, why fix something which is not broken? And obviously they're not broken because they're making bumper dollars. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna actually ask you to help me connect these dots, right? So how do you connect these dots?
Yeah, I think everything has started from brick and mortar to internet. And every model today we see around retail banking or SME or corporate is all about internet. And it is well regulated in every country, by example, in India, Reserve Bank of India and many others. The retail part is very easy to do. In Indian context, we have India Stack and many other public digital infrastructure. We could do customer onboarding, servicing, every other thing. But the way the regulation is being created for years together, uh, for typically for corporate banking and SME, it's easy for sole proprietorship in India, but it's very uneasy for where more than two partners and AML, KYC, many other things will keep coming. And that moment, bank would, who are typically sit in a glass houses, do not want to be really so agile the way they are agile in retail market. They want to really assess whom they are onboarding, is he really correct customers, and it takes a lot of time. It was taking a lot of time for retail customers also, but now it's a mindset change or shift has to happen. Good to see some countries are coming up with that public digital infrastructure where you have a account ready, you just have to go and opt for it. So I think another area, the way we see internet came with the web, followed by mobile, and followed by API banking, open banking, so on. But we never challenged that banks. Your regulations came on top of that internet, and to suffice one regulation, we come up with some other regulation. When you talk about typical journey about KYC in Indian context, we have seen paper-based KYC was moved to digital KYC with eKYC, followed by Aadhaar-based KYC. And today we talk about video KYC or CKYC, which is a centralized infrastructure. But we don't see that aspect when I want to onboard a customer, retail or corporate. It takes some cost in one bank. At a national level, can I reduce that cost? I'm just talking about one use case, which is onboarding. There are many other use cases for servicing, payments, trade finance, cross-border, and many others. And I think that kind of inclination has to come at a regulatory level. At a bank level, they can always do a lot of innovations at one bank. But if I have to onboard one customer, and that customer KYC should be available to another bank instantly without spending same amount or the same operation, which is not happening.
100 pieces of paper which I need to sign.
Absolutely. And it's there in every business model. You talk about lending, or you talk about opening a savings account, current account, or trade finance, or cross border. I think we need to go back in the drawing boards and to see. I think that's what I think re-architecting.
I
Which
agree.
are those
That's
technologies
it.
which will really come and really help to make that happen?
So let's talk about blockchain then,
Yeah.
right? So what role do you see blockchain, right, play over the next decade or more?
I think if you take it right, blockchain will change the banking we have done the last so many years together. I gave example of a decentralized KYC, or another example could be a cross-border trade or reporting of frauds. See, frauds are happening because we have created those systems, Web2-based systems, mobile or internet-based system. But frauds will not at all happen, and all of those your regulations will go off. Setting of a password or reporting those fraudulent data. Today in Indian context, if you have to report one fraud which is happening in one bank, and that data if has to be available to another bank through RBI's route, through central fraud registry, it takes 45 days. And in between that, fraudulent customer can do many more things, right? But if a reporting of fraud happens on blockchain, the fraud data is available to the next bank instantaneously. Now, when you talk about this use case, there are many other use cases, decentralized KYC, AML, or you talk about syndicated lending, cross-border payments, or today every country is talking about central bank digital currency. What we have done at a national level, example UPI is a path-breaking payment method, but we never took care of that traditional ecosystem which requires reconciliation settlement next day, and there is a whole lot of operations, and we come up with lot of operation costs which call it as MDR or all of that thing. But the blockchain comes in the picture and says that I can re-architect completely. You do not require reconciliation settlement. You may keep doing it over a period of time to have that confidence in the system, but you do not require.
Yeah. So the way you're actually building it is not required. If you
Yes.
want another layer of comfort,
Yes.
knock yourself out.
Yeah, another area here is that now customer behavior changing, right? The customer behavior changing. I want to do banking with one bank so far. Now I want to bank, I just want banking services. I do not know which bank is providing better service. Let it be on marketplace. So slowly from brick and mortar to digital to we are moving on marketplaces. And there we look for a lot of trust. And it's not only banking, but on marketplaces, there will be many other non-banking services also. And those interfaces will change from mobile to metaverse. So we'll talk about those fundamental digital identity aspects, how the data is moving within that whole ecosystem. While we have taken care of so many regulations so far, I don't want any regulator to come up with more regulations when we are moving that customer from this traditional digital to the autonomous world, where things will do autonomously. I think that blockchain will come with those phenomena called smart contracts and autonomous banking in the back end, and you don't have to really worry what's really happening at the customer end.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So educate me a little bit here,
Yeah.
right? And I genuinely mean educate me here. So the way I see it, and the little I'm learning about digital assets, blockchain, etc., is there's a lot of benefit on the front end, on the distributive end, and
Yes, yes.
AML and KYC is just
Yeah,
one example,
absolutely,
but
yes.
there's loads of others,
Yeah.
right? There's also a lot of benefit in the foundational layer, which
Yes.
you just mentioned, fraud being a very good
Yeah,
example,
correct.
right? How do you see blockchain coming into what I call the middle, the product layer?
Yeah.
So are we going to see very soon products inherently built on blockchain? So we will build lending products on blockchain, not just build a product and then connect it with
Yeah.
blockchain related things. Do you see that shift coming? Do you think that, that'll happen? And my point is, how complex is that going to make regulation, risk, compliance policies which govern products? Because let's be honest, most of the banking products is a set of rules,
Yes.
right, which are fed into a system, and there's a product, right? It's not a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I
right?
do understand.
Right?
Yeah.
So how does that work? So how does that sort of programmability of product happen?
I think there are a lot many use cases going to come. I think in my view, everything is going to be tokenized. The way we see internet came and everything is on internet. So over a period of time, everything will be tokenized. In the sense, in a banking context, example, last year there was a bid for EV buses in India, and there are some companies who does those bid. It was not happen because cost was huge. Would have been on a crowd market or to the retail customers, would have been done that. I think that's one of those use cases we are driving in US, backed by Zero Pay, wherein we are looking forward how do we incentivize those EV trucks, how normal customer can come and invest and own those trucks, or we are doing it for ships. While this is happening, we need a trusted entity out there who will take care of the transactions between banks and
So
the.
thank you for
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, I want to hear this because I was going to go there.
Yeah, so I think this trusted entity, so far we can always invent and start creating new, but we are sitting on those trusted entities governed by governments, which are banks, or maybe some companies backed by some capital markets, right? So I think on those lines, when this business model will move around, we as a regulator will look at who are these trusted entities who will take care of the data, who will take care of the governance, who will say, yes, this property or this particular loan, which is funded by 100 more people as a part of a fractional ownership. I think that's how is the game for banks out there. Now, another thing which you asked me very well, blockchain is a new technology. When you talk about blockchain in 18, it was like MS-DOS, but today it's predominantly quite progressed. There are quite a lot of platforms we talk about who are a part of asset tokenization, like Ethereum's, or there are many more, and there will be many more. But going back, still the interoperability problems between one blockchain to another blockchain, or scalability problems, while blockchain talks, wow, on a ground level, when you start implementing, huge cost, availability of the resources, and actually making it happen, it takes a lot of time. And when you do normal mobile banking, normal digital lending, there are a lot of regulations. You talk about many countries. I think last to last year, India come up with many regulations around buy now pay later, peer-to-peer lending, and it took a lot of disturbance for fintech players on the existing technology. Now we are talking about asset tokenization, which is new technology, new business model. It will take its own time. But the way I see the progress at UAE or Saudi Arabia or Singapore, and typically in India also with IFSCA, they are studying that. I think some countries are far ahead. They are giving a lot of opportunity to fintechs and banks to be part of that. We have seen a lot of players in JP Morgan's or ONX are doing good thing, and they are participating with IFSC also. But regulators are quite open. While they talk about regular banking, they have a thread. In India, we have a RBI FinTech unit. They are studying how blockchain will bring up a lot of these use cases. I personally have done some of the sessions for them. And I see RBI Innovation Hub, which is in India, IFSCA. These companies are made to bring on this emerging business model backed by emerging tech. So, and while bring on, it should have a better regulation, better framework, and so on. I'm not saying it is going to happen by tomorrow, but I think the way we see rise of Web3 companies, many more companies are giving challenges as well as opening up those business models. We have seen how during COVID, decentralized finance companies have done that. But being a regulation, it's good. Innovations with the good regulation backed by good technology will be a sustainable model for end users.
I agree.
So that's what I see. But the way CBDC is coming, or token backed CBDC predominantly, it will open up many business model, like lending against your digital assets, right? So if you have we always
But we don't need CBDC for that, right? You can you can do lending against.
Yes, we can do that, but if you want the lending to be done by some central bank or central commercial bank backed by, we need some central currency. I think it depends, like how bank want to really welcome stable coins, or
So let me ask you this question, right? And I do not know the answer for this, but it's a question I grapple with, right? So CBDCs are usually talked in two sort of categories. There's wholesale CBDC and there's retail CBDC. I think wholesale CBDC, even for a common man like me who sort of understands, DLT, blockchain a little bit, sort of makes sense. When I come to retail CBDCs, right? Couple of questions which come up to me is the implication for a country's, I guess, monetary policy in the role of the banks. I get a little bit confused, right? To be honest with you, and right. So we want to have CBDCs, but we still want to have banks. So does that mean we're still inefficient, right? Because why are we putting another agent in the middle? And you might say that there's good reasons, but I'm just being controversial in my question. The second question I have, and please, if you can answer, I'd love to hear your views, is there is a simpler concept of programmable fiat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Why is programmable fiat not getting enough airtime? Is it not? Does it not solve for most of what retail CBDCs would, with less disruption to the way, the I guess the monetary economy is set up?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful question, Arjun. And I think if I answer you in the next 1 hour, it will answer many of the things. And still, as I'm part of the ecosystem, I am also looking forward for those answers. I think these answers are coming through a lot of POCs pilots done by bank international settlement. Many countries are doing and collaborating with each other. But ultimately, when you talk about traditional banking, the way we have seen from coins to paper to digital money and so on, we see some of those foundational aspects of moving money, printing currency. There are a lot of frauds keeps happening. Then those reconciliation settlement between banks. That is why we are bringing wholesale CBDC, so that we can do away with the operational aspects. And retail, while there are a lot of payment methods available on the front, in the back we say that it will help to reconcile auto reconcile. But as long as we are there as a bank, we will keep reconciling, we keep settling down. But the way I look at the movement of money on a central bank digital currency that was tokenized, it brings an opportunity for banks to come out of their traditional banking and be part of the whole ecosystem wherever, like example in metaverse, they are not there, right? So, or there are some experiments done by MasterCard, Visa to do the payments with the cards. But as a normal banks, while UPI is there for a normal payment industry, they have to be there in the metaverse also. We should be backed by some tokens. Now, you say why CBDC is required.
No, I'm saying why can't we do it with programmable fiat?
Yes, yeah, but programmable fiat, I think typically we have seen is on Web2 world, which is a central database, and we say that decentralization coming to picture will have a less of frauds, considering there are more than 2 nodes or 3 nodes whenever a system is set up for a blockchain thing. On a Web2, when we set up, it's a error prone. The way we have seen some of those firewalls and many more things we keep to safeguard one entity, or we have many more regulations around the standard PCI DSS in payment context, ISO. That will ease out because some of those foundational aspects are taken care by blockchain itself, right? Zero knowledge proof, or having a right digital identity to access the ecosystem, how the data is moving, how user is accessing, and having that control instantaneously and programmatically. Today, if I give money from one country to some emerging countries as a fiat currency, right? Like typically is done to the African countries. I'm not sure whether they are really spending for that purpose. But here the programmability will be inside that system. If I'm giving some subsidy to a farmer to spend it on only a farm or some of those buying, selling some of those relevant fertilizers.
But I can do that today. Well, we've been doing that with prepaid cards with MCC codes. So,
Yes, yes. So even in India, we had a e-rupee, the cards. But I think but the complete ecosystem, right? That's the question we have to keep exploring. Here, at least the merchants or point of sale where I'm going to transact with my wallet, it will be in closed user group. It may not come. See, it's as in concepts I'm talking, but I think there are a lot of answers are given by existing systems also. But why blockchain-backed CBDC is coming? Because today it may not be required, but over a period of time, as we move in a 6G or maybe furthermore, customer experience will keep changing more.
Okay.
They would look at what is real time, what is more than real time, instantaneous and everywhere around that. I think that infrastructure will be backed by
so
CBDC.
It's instantaneous and omnipresent.
Omnipresent, yeah. That's how.
So we're short of time. So let talk. So just very, very concisely, what are you doing in Blockstack?
Oh, Blockstack is a Web3 infrastructure company. I come with a lot of experience. I used to serve almost all banks in South Asian banks when I was part of a venture and Worldline as an architect for merchant acquiring, card issuance, central. So I had seen how the systems are working together, the gaps around that. And fortunately, I joined a bank, right, other side of the table.
Unfortunately,
and,
it's not that unfortunate. It's okay.
And I was taking care of all those architecting followed by deliveries. And over a period of time, I got in touch with the blockchain back in 2016. And I started India's first bank chain forum, followed by the IBDSE, which is coming up. I think as a banker, I have served a bank, and I feel there are a lot of opportunities for a blockchain to get in there. But if you have to do that, you need to be in full time. You have to create awareness, followed by proof of concept, pilots, go back to one bank and do it for all. I could not have done sitting in one bank, right? So that's why I started Blockstack, which is a consulting for regulator or banks, is a profit model. And at the same time, I come up with the view that India Blockchain Forum, which is a national Section 8 company who work closely with some of the state governments, and we are mentor for some of the regulators in India to come up with the right education, awareness, followed with the adoption of a right technology. If you have to adopt today Ethereum, Hyperledger, it takes a lot of time to evaluate. But which are those best practices to select the platform? Which are those best practices to secure the platform? How you do internal audit, but how will you do internal audit when it is a blockchain-based system? You do information security for your day-to-day systems, but how will you do it with smart contracts? So the Blockstack offers all of these services over a period of time. While we may say we offer, we are well supported by a lot of partner ecosystem in the in this play. And as we move further, we look at it becomes a Web3 infrastructure company to back a lot of use cases. So combination of India Blockchain Forum, Blockstack is helping me to keep my dreams alive around blockchains in India and outside of India.
No, I think that's great. And keep dreaming big.
Yeah.
Prasanna, thanks for coming in.
Yes, thank you
I
so
wish
much.
you the very best. Enjoy the last day.
Yes.
I think we've got Ajay Banga coming on in about
Yeah.
half an hour. I think I'm also quite looking forward to hearing him.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward.
And
Yeah.
well, thank you. And I'm sure we'll meet again either in India or some other part of the world.
Yes, and I think I feel so honored to be here with you.
Please.
That to see, I never felt that. So thank you so much. It's your greatness that you invite right people on this platform. I keep hearing, and the way you nurture your LinkedIn ecosystem, which is online as well as offline. I think you are a man for the global as a global ambassador. While you are a
Thank
ambassador
you.
at Singapore FinTech Festival, but we look forward for your guidance, inspiration. So we keep learning through your podcast series. So look forward, let it come more and more, bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
so much,
appreciate it.
Arjun. Yeah,
Thanks a
yeah.
lot.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.